to ask you, is
Yeah.
this all about talk?
Well, let me tell you, I always say, thank God we haven't stopped talking, because I think the silence would have killed all of us. We talk a lot, but where do you start the whole process? You've got to raise the issues, you've got to discuss the issues, you've got to deal with them, and if people don't respond, or the authorities or those that are responsible don't do anything about it, we don't keep quiet, we just keep talking. And we try and raise the noise level more and more and more. And that's why we like what we do at the Economic Summit with the annual summits. And also, don't forget, we've got all these policy commissions, which are little units that are, subdivisions of the Economic Summit. And they are meeting right through the year. And that's why when we get to the summit, there's so much robust issues to be dealt with when we all gather together.
Okay, so there is some form of monitoring in terms of what you discuss here and how you follow through the year till the following year. This is how it works.
Yes, that's how it works. What it is, you find each policy unit tends to focus on its own area. We've got one on education, human capital development, power, oil and gas, institutions. I can't remember all of them, but we've got 8 of them, and they meet regularly. They meet, and they're public-private relationships. You've got a whole team of people from the private sector, another team from the public sector, probably headed by a director of a particular ministry, and they try and meet. And some are more active than others. It just depends on the kind of vibrant people we have in these policy units.
Well, it's the 19th summit, and each year the topic changes, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be difficult to say this is how you're monitoring progress, on a particular thing you discussed last year, or do you have a forum for that in your summit every year?
In the summit, I think you'll find that we've had all these things, and different issues are raised. And depending on the particular, if you have a policy commission that's taken on a particular issue that you need resolved, you follow it through. I think it's going to take, each policy commission is going to take a look and see how far they've gone in the particular instance. If you mention it, one of the major things that we've done that we've been quite proud of is, we must give government credit for, is that every year we submit the outcome of the summit to the president. And we actually present it to the Federal Executive Council. We're in partnership as far as the summit is concerned with the National Planning Commission. So we meet the Federal Executive Council and we present and say, these are the major findings, major recommendations that we're making. And the president, he's given a commitment that he always follow through. So it goes back to the planning minister, and then the planning minister coordinates with the particular minister. And we do have successes. Sometimes some things get fall on the wayside, but it's always a case of priority. What's burning? What's the major issue? And you tend to move towards those ones, and then you begin to pick up the other ones afterwards.
As part of sustaining this talk beyond this summit, are you exploring the option of perhaps partnering with tertiary institutions to the extent that you design a specific program to encourage agriculture?
This is where I've got to go back to the agricultural minister, Mr. Akin Adesina, or Dr. Adesina, because their ability to roll out has been very, very practical. To the extent that I know that the relationship that he would have with universities, for example, will be more on the agro side. I don't know about things about seeds and fertilizers and productivity, the more near scientific things about agriculture. And obviously he studied here, and he's got this very strong network dealing with different universities, especially those that are doing a lot in agriculture. So I won't say that specifically they go to the universities and maybe teach or push through the universities, but certainly the universities form part of that community of people that are working in that agricultural sector.
That's sorry, Moped, because why this is quite interesting and novel is it seemed to me that this is the very first time we're getting to see a summit having the small-scale farmer in mind, because from what you just highlighted, before now, it's been loads of talks and policies geared towards helping that same small farmer, but at the end of the day, he never gets to benefit from all of this. So it brings to mind the sustainability issue Chamberlain raised. Now we have talked about all of this. the big-time farmer definitely is in the picture. So is the small-time farmer, so that he too can grow to become a big-time farmer and get his produce out of the country. But sustainability is key here. You reel out your own policies at the end of the day. Can the NESG also follow through with the government, working with the government hand in hand? Because a lot of people don't know that you're not part of the government, but you work with the government. So can you work with the government and see that some of these that will come out of this summit is followed through?
Yeah, I think, again, you find that we can't escape leadership. We can't escape issues about what the particular minister would do. And where you talk about the small-scale farmers, take, for example, the kind of initiative the minister has taken as far as fertilizers are concerned. In the past, fertilizers used to be used to be a major scam, to be quite honest. People were bringing in fertilizers, they were very adulterated, they were poor quality and so on, and they were getting subsidized for it, and it just didn't work. And he just stopped it and said, look, if you want to import fertilizers, do it, and we will give the farmer the particular subsidy to get the fertilizer. As a result of that, farmers who hitherto really struggled with issues on fertilizers, they were very, very happy that, look, we now have good quality fertilizers to use. So the point I'm raising is that, yes, you find the likes of the government and the ministry paying attention to the small-scale farmers, paying attention to the people who are sort of at the fringe of all this huge thing we're talking about. And they're not ignored in any way. They're not ignored.
For you, what would you say that Nigeria is beginning to make progress in agriculture? I mean, when would you say we've made substantial progress?
Well, I guess one good indicator, we look at our import levels. You know, I understand that we spent about $8 billion last year importing food. That's a lot of money. And we've got to begin to look and say to ourselves, what's our level of food importation?
Just for 1 year.
Just for 1 year. And that's why, you know, when the minister talks about it, he throws what I call, he throws a wobbler. In fact, he really gets very infuriated. Instead of saying, oh, can't you guys see? $8 billion. And then we're importing rice, third or fourth grade rice from India. I mean, we are importing frozen chicken that's probably rejects from another country. And we've got people who are quite eager to do this, whilst we're saying, let's grow our local capacity.
So for you, an indicator will be a reduction in the level of imports. But some people say that, you know, the level of investment that we need in agriculture, we cannot afford that right now. Chairman raised that question earlier about, you know, how should our priorities be? Right now, we're a country of many needs. We're looking at power, we're looking at infrastructure. People are saying, which should we do first? Should we do that first and then focus on agriculture later? Or do you think that we have the resources to be able to focus on all of them at the same time?
Well, if you look at most countries, especially in our kind of situation, in principle, I'd like to argue that we do have a lot of resources, not enough. But the revenues we earn from oil, we really need to sort of reallocate that. You know, you're going to take me to a very, very sensitive subject of mine, which is the cost of governance. Last year, that was what we dealt with. One of the topics we dealt with at the summit was the cost of governance. You know, for every $100 we earn, you know, 70 is paying government in this total ramification. And if we begin to reprioritize, we're saying the revenues that we generate from our God-given oil should really go to support building infrastructure, building roads, sorting out our powers, dealing with education and health and all those things that normally will help the economy to be a bit more robust and balanced in terms of things we do. So, in principle, we should be able to fund part of those things. But it's our ability to fund those things that attracts the foreign direct investment. You see, foreigners who are sitting on billions of dollars, they would always look for where the money can get good ROI. And the first step we've got to take is we've got to be seen to be investing ourselves. And if we're putting a lot of money in there, we're getting the returns, then we begin to attract other people to come in and participate in that. So the whole idea, go back again to the summit, and even the whole concept of the agricultural push, is to say, look, guys, there's a huge opportunity here. Those of you that are even local, try and begin to look at how you can get into agriculture from an investment point of view, from the whole value chain. And you guys that are on the outside, see how you can participate if you want to participate in a very sustainable way. It's not about imports. And I tell people, if you want me to start importing foodstuff, I don't want to hear. Tell me how you're going to start producing those things here, because we can always make it possible. And if we all face the same direction and we're all very, very determined about it, and we all say, look, everybody, we wake up in the morning and say, very much like the way the Chinese do, we are going to be the greatest agricultural producing country in the world. And we're going to do it in the next 10 to 15 years. We're going to be the new wonder of the world by having this major transformation. And it can happen if Nigerians decide that that is the way we want to go in every single aspect of it.
Okay.